Welcome to another episode of WhickTV, a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. And today, have we got a show for you, gang? We are going to be talking about immigration and border control. Recently, there was a tragic death of 3 migrants, a mother and 2 children, as they were trying to cross the Rio Grande. Is this indicative of a cruel system of border control? Should we be opening up our borders in general? Or should we be working to secure them even more than they are? We have gathered a team to discuss this. We have some great things to talk about today, but before we start, I want to give each of these individuals a brief introduction and a brief opening statement. And we're going to start with someone who hasn't been on my show in a long, long time. LSP, go ahead. What you got?
Hi, I'm LSP. Thanks for having me, Wick. So just as far as an opening goes, immigration tends to do 2 things that is just irrefutable by data. It tends to improve the economy because you're growing the supply of labor, growing the supply of consumers, grow supply of capital. All this stuff makes the economy go round. And you also tend to reduce crime with immigrants. Immigrants come here, they do not commit crime. Illegal or legal immigrants, either which way, typically their crime is lower than crime committed by natives. They're actually reducers of crime. So beyond that, from what I could tell, all the immigrant wants is what the citizen gets for free. I don't see any reason why I, as a free person, should deny another free person the same opportunities I get in life based on something as arbitrary as where they came from.
All right. Well, thank you for being here, and we'll get into it as we go. Next up, no stranger to my channel, and no stranger to my heart, Admiral Gibbs. What you got?
Howdy. I'm Admiral Gibbs. You can find me everywhere at Admiral Gibbs. This, it's a tragedy what happened to these people. However, that being said, we definitely need a stronger border policy. We need immigration reform. People are flooding in across. It's an invasion. That's really what it is. If we don't do something about this now, it's going to become a problem for everybody. The sheer mass of humanity that's moving across the border is just it's just millions of people, and there's just nowhere like that we have the infrastructure for this kind of thing. And I don't know, something's got to be done, and it's got to be done ASAP.
Okay, thank you for being here. I'm sure we'll get into it as we go. Next up, someone who I am proud to let across my border, Corey Campbell. What you got?
And I echo the sentiment that I am proud to cross your border anytime, with consent, of course. But yeah, thank you so much for inviting me on here. I appreciate it. Always grateful to be here. And also great to be here with these lovely people. And yeah, so I echo a lot of the same sentiments that LSP just went through. So I am not for open borders and just a free for all. But totally, as LSP just pointed out, from the data that I've seen, even though it's a little bit tricky to tease out, on the whole, it seems to be that immigration is a largely net positive. And also, even though I come from a Canadian perspective, and there's a labor shortage here, from what I understand, there's also a labor shortage in the United States, or even just like in healthcare, where I think pretty much no matter what, if you actually want to address some of these labor shortages, you will have to allow for immigration, and even just for population growth. From what I understand, I think the United States only gets population growth from immigration, or a lot of the population growth is due to immigration. I'll leave it there for now.
Okay, well, thank you for being here, and we'll see where it goes in the open. Last, but certainly not least, 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm going to take a little bit of a middle road position here. Immigration, there's a couple issues that are that I struggle with, abortion being one, but immigration being another one, because the question for me is going to be mostly empirical. I understand that there are a lot of good organizations that have found a lot of benefits that come with allowing more immigrants. Cato is very pro-immigrant, and they have a lot of numbers that back up what they're saying. But that doesn't mean those numbers aren't controversial, and that doesn't mean that they're always measuring the same things that we should care about, right? So I understand that according to Cato numbers, overall GDP contribution per illegal immigrant is higher than the costs of absorbing them into the country, except the costs are measured as direct taxpayer costs, and GDP is not measured as such. There's other numbers that indicate that actually it does cost taxpayers more per illegal immigrant when you consider all the services, even factoring in the taxes that they do pay. So I think that probably the solution here is, sure, we can let people in, but we have to cut services. We can't provide services, I would say, generally speaking, but especially not when you have such a large amount of people coming over. I think the reason's obvious. We're going to have to spend tremendously more money, especially when in places like New York, they're paying for, or at least have been paying for, free housing for a lot of these immigrants. Things that U.S. citizens don't even get. I think it's pretty wild.
Okay, and with that, let's open it up. I guess let's start with just immigration in general. Admiral Gibbs, you called it an invasion. Can you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, I'll elaborate. So I come from, like, originally when I grew up, right? I come from the city of Corpus Christi, which is a town of about 400,000 people right now, right? So at the peak this year, I don't know what the current numbers are, but at the peak this year, in 2 months, we had 438,000 people cross the Texas border into the United States, right? So that's more people than the 8th biggest port in the United States. All came in one go. Within 2 months, we've had more people than one of the biggest cities. So my question is, where are we going to put all these people? Where all these people come from? We got to process them. We put them in camps. It's cold outside right now here in Texas. I mean, that's a rare occasion. I know everybody makes fun of us for the freeze, but we don't have the infrastructure for this. Whenever we try to get infrastructure, the government comes in, shuts us down. We would try to put up walls, shuts us down. So yeah, it's an invasion. It's literally we be told that we can't have a sovereign border, and people are just crossing in the hundreds of thousands. And it's becoming a strain on the state. It's becoming a strain on the nation. I don't know how you can say it's not an invasion when it's literally masses of people the size of major cities all of a sudden moving from one location to a new location, and just there's just nowhere to put these people. I don't. It's an invasion in every sense of the word.
Is it an invasion because of the size of the people coming? Like, it's an invasion in every sense. I don't think in every sense of the word it's an invasion. So you simply, was it the size of the people that makes it an invasion? If it was half that, would it be an invasion?
Yeah, absolutely. It would still be an invasion. I mean, there are millions of
If it was a
people
quarter of
that
that,
have
would
come.
it be an invasion? It was
I
1%
mean,
of that, would it be an invasion?
I mean, you're getting into semantics here because we're talking about realities. The reality is in 2 months, we had over
Well, you said in every
438,000
sense of the
people.
word, it's an
It
invasion.
is. It is an invasion. It is currently an invasion. We can sit here and dick around
What are they
and talk
armed with?
about
Can we
what
shoot
are
them?
the percentage of people coming, like how many people to make some invasion. But we got to talk about facts. The facts is we're getting overrun here, and people want to sit here and go poo poo. We don't want to enforce the border. That's sad. It's sad these people died. Yeah, it's an invasion, bro. Like, I don't know how you can sit here and go, oh, it's not an invasion because our heart feels so strongly for these people. Like, sorry,
Okay,
we don't
sure.
have the infrastructure.
So we don't have the infrastructure. The barriers. You're fine with the barriers as a way of deterring them, even if they kill people?
Absolutely, we need stronger barriers. I mean, we're the only country in the world that doesn't enforce our
But
border.
even though it kills people, you're fine with the
Yeah,
barriers.
absolutely. It's called a barrier. It's called a border. You're not supposed to cross this illegally.
What if it killed twice that number of people that it kills every year?
What if it
Would you
killed
fine with
every
that?
one of us person trying to come across? Then it'd be an effective
If it
barrier.
killed 100% of the
I
people,
don't think it kills that many.
you'd be
I don't
fine
think
with
it
that?
kills. I don't think it kills that many people per year.
Well,
what's the number
let's
we're looking at?
let's go down this. If it killed 100% of the people who tried to cross, would you be fine with that?
I mean, sure. Then it would be an effective barrier.
You don't think maybe there's a way we can figure out how to solve immigration without killing people with a death trap?
It sounds well and good, but guess what? No, every time we've tried to get some kind of immigration reform, both sides have shot it down. So let's maybe get some security and stop the bleeding here, bro.
Would you support shooting immigrants who try to cross?
I would support pretty much almost anything at this point to stop the flow of people coming into this. We're just getting overrun.
So, wait, does that include children as well? Like shoot them?
I mean, maybe
So before we get into that,
that is on the table. I just want to make that clear.
Would you like to talk?
Yeah, a little bit. So I'm only gonna do this once. I don't like doing this, but the definition of invasion, according to Oxford, is simply an unwelcome intrusion into someone's domain, right? Into another's domain. I think that in this case, it's obviously loaded language, but I understand why Gibbs is using it because, especially if you're someone living there, it could definitely feel like an invasion. If somebody gets injured, scaling a fence or climbing over a wall, I mean, and you're saying don't climb the wall, don't come over the fence, you're not welcome over this fence, and they get hurt climbing over it. How responsible are you really for that death? I don't know. That seems to a huge stretch to me. Let me ask you, do you guys think that I should be held responsible? Let's say I put up a fence in my backyard. Let's just say, okay? And someone scaling that fence falls down and breaks their arm. Should I have to pay for their broken arm? Or am I at all responsible? Should I have to take down my fences in case people scaling the wall might break their arms?
Well, so I think that's a valid question, and I would lean, at least given your scenario that you've outlined, I would lean towards no, you're not responsible if it's just like one person. But at least from what I understand, and I don't want to like put words in Admiral Gibbs' mouth, but he seems to be advocating for a more proactive approach of like pretty much almost like
A
just
more homicidal approach.
No, I mean it's ridiculous that you want to sit here and say homicidal. Like there's a legal process to come here. People are actively choosing not to do that because it's too hard or too difficult, and so they're coming here illegally. I mean, I don't know what crimes where you can commit that you just don't have any kind of punishment. It's not homicidal.
Well,
Just sit there. It's
let me
called
tell
a
you why.
deterrent. If everybody's dying when they cross this wall, guess what? People are going to stop trying to cross that wall. So guess what? Then it's a deterrent, and you might be saving more lives because people have to go the like legal way through, and we'll stop sex trafficking. We'll stop all like some of the drug influx. You know, we'll stop a lot of these things if we have an actual viable deterrent that's effective.
But most of the people who are dying, I mean, most of the people who are crossing are not coming here to sex traffic or to sell drugs
What do you?
or anything like that.
How do you? How can you prove that? I mean, are you here? Are you checking every single person coming through? They have an influx of these children
We
that come
have
and they say they
studies
don't
and
know
data
who
on
these
this.
people are that are
The
bringing.
immigrants who
Yeah,
come here.
yeah, and
They
the
don't
children
commit-
are sitting here going, "These aren't our parents," all the time. Like all the time, they're saying this. Like so you're just lying. Is what you're doing.
And
You're
it
just
seems
lying.
like I'm not just lying. The reason I'm calling it a homicidal solution is because I asked you directly if you would be fine with shooting them as well, and you said I'm fine with that. You know, if we have to do something that whatever it works. And if you're fine with shooting migrants as a deterrent, I would say that's pretty homicidal. If you have a deterrent, a barrier that you know is resulting in human deaths, and you want to do more of it, it seems you're knowingly your idea of a deterrent is knowingly putting somebody in danger. You know they're stupid enough to attempt to cross this barrier anyway. You know that it's causing lives, and you want to do nothing but like we're not getting rid of it. We're just going to let them do it. It seems like if you, it seems
LSP, then you would agree that if someone scales my backyard, falls, and gets hurt, that I'm responsible.
that you're responsible? No. I wouldn't
Yeah.
say.
Let's say I build, under the definition you just put forward, I build a fence in my backyard. Somebody scales the fence, falls, and gets hurt. I've got no evidence that they're trying to steal my shit. They're just trying to scale my fence. Am I responsible? I told them not. I literally have signs. Don't try to cross the fence. Don't get over.
You are the king of your own castle. I don't think a border, just because a border, I don't think that's applicable to a border. Borders are major avenues for which commerce and traffic regularly flows, and they only exist to restrict the boundaries of state law. Right? It is a limitation on where the jurisdiction of the state ends, not on the free travel of its people.
So if let's say I live on the border and I have like my property line ends at the border, if I put up a wall and somebody crosses it and dies, you would say I'm not homicidal. But like, let's say it's like like over 30 feet and it's the same wall, but I don't own the wall. If
was a wall, I would be fine with that. But Greg Abbott's putting up like circular saw, like floating barriers and razor wire. Like clearly the intent here is not to just turn them around; it's to maim them.
Sure. I let's say I build a fence and put up razor wire, and somebody tries to cross the razor wire fence and gets hurt. How responsible am I?
You're responsible in the sense that you put up a deterrent that you knew could result in bodily harm, and it resulted in that.
So we should just like not have something that's like a viable deterrent. What do you want? Like us to go out there with like pixie farts and rainbow dust and sit here and try to stop them from crossing the border? Like, what are you trying to? Like, what I
want is like sensible immigration reform that doesn't just mean we're going to lay booby traps at the border and see which genius is dumb enough to try and navigate it. Obviously, if it's an economic problem, we need an economic solution to the border. If it's a criminal justice problem, we need criminal justice. Like, it's expensive. It's difficult. There's a lot of reasons people immigrate illegally. And if it was simply easier to immigrate here, they wouldn't do it illegally. So it seems to me the issue is a political problem. We need to find a political solution. The one that doesn't seem to help anything is creating barriers with circular saws that just gets people killed. It's not helping anybody. It's just killing.
Well, if they die, then they didn't. They effectively stop them from crossing the border, wouldn't you say?
I mean, is that your goals?
I mean, it's to stop. It's to stop.
I guess technically, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
are you Christian?
Yeah, I'm Christian. Yeah, sure. I also believe in national sovereignty. Like I'm sorry, I don't know how you can sit here and try to hit me with the Christian thing when if you read Revelations,
when I think about
wiping people
because
out.
when I think about what Jesus Christ says, I just can't imagine him espousing the beliefs you do. That's why.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Like, if it kills 100% of them, like great. Like,
have you read what happens?
A lot more people to heaven.
I mean, have you read what happens in Revelations? Revelations, he comes and wipes out everybody.
I'm not sure. I'm going to throw a flag on this play. I don't know if I want a religious debate tonight. But for now, I want to concentrate on the immigration, the border control. So this is $20 from 𝕵𝖎𝖎, okay, and he says, to be clear, immigration is a Mott and Bailey argument. Is that because of the walls and stuff? Is that a joke? Okay. Anyway, the pro-immigration side knows that what citizens have an issue with isn't the legal immigration. These people don't know what sensible immigration is. So I guess let's rewind a little bit, and I guess I'll ask you all, do you think that the rate of legal immigration in this country is at the right level? Is it too much? Is it too little? What do we think?
I would say probably not at the right level.
Why not? Can you elaborate?
Well, yeah, so I more or less, and this could be just incorrect on my part, but I more or less view it as sort of an economic, or part of it isn't an economic issue, where, yes, there are people that are looking to hopefully have a better standard of living by coming to the United States or Canada, but also, yeah, for the economic opportunities. And like, yeah, I would point to the fact that to address labor shortages and for economic growth and population growth, like immigration is a primary driver of those things. Where, yeah, if you're looking to sustain your country, as of now, like, I think you can't do without immigration.
Would that be, if we had numbers and if we had data to show that while nationally, yes, this was the case, everything you said was true, it helped and increased and had all these benefits, to the locality on which they're going to, right? Like their immigrants are going to, the people of that community are getting hurt. They're getting economically hurt. They're losing their jobs. They're missing out on opportunities. Their healthcare systems are being overwhelmed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Would you still hold that position?
Well, it's sort of, I can see that as a potential problem and that making a problem worse, but I could also see that immigration can be a solution to that problem of, like, yeah, as I alluded to in my opening statement, to maybe address healthcare worker shortage. I don't think that's going to come from the population that you currently have. Same thing with Canada, where, like, if you want to have more healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, et cetera, you need to expedite the process of legal immigration to get qualified people. So yeah, I can see that as a solution.
Yeah, I want to hear from everyone else, but then I have a question for Gibbs. So I guess Lactoid, is it at the right level? Too much? Not enough? What do you think? What's your intuition here?
Well, so my intuition is that I'm not the best person. I don't think any of us here are. I don't think to judge what's like the correct level. I think this should be. I think a market-driven approach is actually like the perfect way to handle this. Where if you remove the services and just simply like, okay, if you're an immigrant and you want to survive in America, you have to come here and be productive. This could be a natural limiting factor. One proposal that was presented by I didn't think of it. It was actually by Scott. I think it's a really good idea. Is that you remove caps on immigration, but in order for somebody to come into the country, they have to have a sponsor, like an employer. And the employer is going to be responsible for all the costs of this immigrant if it doesn't work out, right? And so that way, they would have to cover the services, but because I don't think Americans would deal with like, oh well, we want to give them services. We don't like this idea of people being within the borders not having services. But that's the biggest problem. We can't give them services. We can't have millions of people come in and then pay for their healthcare, for their education, for all the shit that we have to pay for. They're a net drain in terms of a tax perspective. It's not acceptable.
Okay, LSP, same question.
Excuse me, I'm like a little bit sick, so.
Okay.
I would say I guess I'm more capitalist than I guess some of the other people here, because I would say the right number is what the market sets it at. There's supply and there's a demand, right? There's a supply of available workers that is not meeting the demand for labor, right? There's a greater demand for labor, so that's why immigrants are coming here, is because they want to meet that demand. There's job opportunities, so it makes sense that they're coming here. Which is why I look at this, it's an economic problem, probably needs an economic solution, probably needs some sort of market-based solution. As for like, the process of getting them here, I don't want anybody sneaking over the border. Like, have you guys been to Texas? It's fucking hot. Like, I can't imagine the thing these people have to go through, the rivers they got to swim through, the deserts they got to, the shady fucking people they have to deal with just to get, like, these people are working so hard to get here. Not to mention Greg Abbott wants to, like, turn the border into, like, a fucking booby trap zone full of landmines and a moat with alligators. Like, it's insane stuff. So, like, I admire and I respect these people because there's some hard, dedicated people to come here. Right, it takes a true, hard, independent working spirit. So this is a kind of talent I want in this country. Like, that's a lot. The answer to getting, what we need to do with them is we need to rechange our immigration system so that it's easier for them to get here. Right, the process is more sensible. It doesn't take years and thousands of dollars. Because it takes like 10 plus years for somebody to even like go through the process to become a citizen, and it takes like upwards of like $5,000+ with I don't know how much legal paperwork. Like, obviously, it's not the way it's structured now. Is not an intelligent way to conduct an immigration system. So, of course, they're sneaking over. And then if all you're doing it to address that is adding death barriers, and they're just dumb enough to throw themselves onto it and mangle their bodies, all you've done is create thousands of dead bodies that now you got to handle. Like 100 years into the future, how many dead bodies are we going to have because we've created these barriers? Is it fixing the problem? No, it's not fixing the problem. It's not getting us any closer to fixing the problem. It's not doing anything to fix the problem, right? It's an economic problem. It's a political problem. It needs an economic solution. It needs a political solution. I think we can do it. I think America as a
seems,
land of
I don't mean to interrupt your rant here, but like saying it needs an economic solution, we need to fix it economically, doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't give me any information. Like, what does that mean?
That means we need to change our visa programs to better address how many immigrants can come here. We need to change the process by which one gets a visa so that it's easier for them to come here and do the work. Because as it stands right now, visas have caps on how many people can get. There's certain barriers to entry to acquiring certain visas. No, yes, I would raise those caps. I would allow more people who want to come here to come here.
Would you eliminate those caps? Do you believe in unlimited, uncapped?
I'm not against eliminating the caps. Unless I can't see a reason to keep caps other than like you have this fear that we're being invaded, we're being overrun. There's millions. Like, I can see that, but the few examples I can think of where there's been like a sudden influx of immigrants into an area, like the Mariel boat lift in Cuba, in which like 200,000 Cuban refugees just ended up in the Miami area, like in a snap. It actually wound up being fine for the Cuban economy. Like, they integrated fine. They had no net effect on wages. Yes. No net effect on wages, no net effect on employment. It actually ended up being a boost to local.
Well, they
Miami
vote
labor.
red now. I mean, Florida goes red every.
Yeah, good for Republicans. Yeah,
because they ran from communism, right? This is also true of the Vietnamese.
I mean, it might be true of them. Like, I'm not going to keep somebody out because they're going to vote differently from me. I don't know about you guys. I'm not authoritarian like that.
Fair enough. I guess then to Admiral Gibbs, right? Obviously, you think there's too much. So I guess
no, I don't actually. So here's the thing about this, right?
Well, then explain. Correct me.
So I absolutely think we need a much more firm hand on the border wall, like whatever that form may take, whether it's drones or it's a physical Great Wall of Texas or something. We need something to stop the bleeding. We got to stop people just from coming over here willy-nilly. On the second side, I do also think we need some sort of immigration reform. And it needs to be easier to get here. I actually don't have a problem with immigration. I'm the son of an immigrant, but that being said, that's a perfect anecdotal example of why we need immigration control. My real father, he's crossed the border 3 or 4 times getting over here, and I'm pretty sure he's got a felony. We need to have some kind of background check going on these people. We need to know who's coming through. We need to know who these people are. We need to know why they're coming. Just because you want to come here doesn't mean you should get to come here. A government's duty is to its citizenry first, right? Do we need economic people? Do we want people coming here to work? Absolutely. We should let those people come. We should make it easier for people that want to come here for legitimate reasons. But whenever your first act of coming into a new country is to ignore their laws and break their laws by coming illegally, that doesn't bode well, in my opinion. So I absolutely do think we need some kind of heavy-handed immigration reform where it's much more easy for people to get here if they want to come here. But at the same time, we also need to secure our border. Now, what that form of immigration reform looks like, I don't know, but we're desperate down here, folks. Desperate. I like it. Something's got to be done.
$2 from Testicle Johnson. As an American, I think limiting migrants is needed. You're not an American. These are Canadian dollars you're paying me in. Artemis Fowl for $10. Can the pro-immigrant aside, tell the audience why the working spirit individuals dump or throw away passports and IDs at the border, and 95% never show up to their second asylum hearing. I don't know if these stats are accurate, but that's what he paid me to say. So, to Corey and to...
I don't know about the second one, but I'm pretty sure it's like over 75% of people who are issued a summons show up to their hearing. I got to go look into that. It's been a while since I've looked at that, but I'm fairly certain the majority of immigrants who are cited end up showing up. I'm going to go look for it.
Okay, check it out. What do you think, Corey? Thoughts?
Well, yeah, I have to sort of, I guess I could take it at face value that that's true. But I'm not going to begin to speculate as to why that is. But yeah, I would pretty much echo what LSP said. I'd have to look into that of like, they're, so I just want to make sure I understand the question correctly. They're saying that pretty much they're going through the legal immigration process, but they're basically not following through enough. Or like, I think the number was cited is like 95%, basically whatever, don't show up to their hearing
Their
for
second
the
hearing,
actual,
to be clear.
their second hearing for the legitimate process. Yeah, I'm not going to begin to speculate. I mean, maybe they found the illegal way through. That's quicker, right? I don't know.
Apparently, I missed one super chat. Okay,
I just found a quick thing I put in chat.
Please.
Like, it's not like foolproof. I'll read it out. But
Please.
irrefutable evidence shows that over the past 2 decades, the majority of immigrants have shown up for immigration court hearings. Rates of appearance increase when people have legal representation, so like lawyers, calling into question the logic of detaining people in prison-like conditions when representation is a viable alternative to ensure court appearances. This might also speak to another concern Gibbs had earlier. We were talking about like infrastructure concerns. It seems like you can address those concerns on some level if you just release people and give them a summons.
Okay, so you would,
What?
to be clear, you would be against holding or detaining people who were found to be crossing the border illegally. So even if there were no obstacles in place and you had Border Patrol and they found some people, a convoy that was crossing illegally, you think that they shouldn't be detained or processed or anything? They should just be given a summons and allowed to go on their way?
If you could, I think an intelligent way to do that might actually be that way, because we got like such an overflow of like immigrants in detention camps already. We ended up having to build like tent cities in Texas. Like, it's become an infrastructure problem when there's no reason to believe most of these people wouldn't show up to a hearing anyway, especially given the number of people who are coming straight up to claim asylum. Like, if they're interested in claiming asylum, chances are they're not really interested in being here illegally. They want to be in the system. It seems in our best interest, especially if you want to find out who these people are, it seems in the best interest is to give them a summons, right? That seems to be the best, most guaranteed way to get them to ever show up and to ever cooperate. If you start treating them like prisoners, you're just at a dead end.
I just want to add that, like, this all sounds well and good, all these things, right? Like, it's all well and good till it's like somebody else's problem, right? And I think that's a real good example of that is, Abbott recently started shipping people on buses to Chicago, shipping on people on buses to New York. And what happened? All of a sudden, they started crying, screaming, hey, I mean, I don't know if you've seen the video of the people in Chicago saying, hey, can we stop immigration from Texas? Oh, it's so terrible. So it's really, this strikes me, like, to me, is empty platitudes. People don't really actually care about this issue here north of Texas. They don't care at all. And so they're like, oh, look at the evil Texans. They're shooting people at the border. Look at the evil Texans with their buzzsaw things in the ocean in the river.
I want to clarify something. Is it your contention that no other state besides Texas accepts immigrants?
No,
are you going to make the claim that Texas has the largest immigrant population in the United States?
I'm not making that claim at all. I'm saying is we're currently dealing with the largest influx of immigrants.
So then your claim that no other state cares about immigrants is false then?
No, it's not at all. No, I'm saying Texas currently is dealing with the largest influx of immigrants. That most of the people that are coming through the border are coming to Texas currently.
I would agree with you that, yes, to cross the border, at least the southern border, you have to go through.
Southern. Yes, that's what we're talking about right here. That's what we're talking about. We can talk about other immigration all we want, but right now we're talking about southern border immigration, right? And the minute we started sending some of these people, we sent 33,000 people. No, we sent 33,000 people to New York, and it cost them $750 million. And they're suing the bus companies because we did this, right? They're sitting there crying, they're moaning, weeping, gnashing of teeth. All of a sudden, it's a problem that we're these people. Chicago, they're upset that a project that was being built, it got turned over to the people that we sent up there for the immigration to hold them. They're sitting here crying, weeping and gnashing, wanting to stop immigration from Texas to Chicago. So it becomes a lot of this here in Texas. When I hear all these people say, we need this. Oh, the Texans are evil. It's just empty platitudes. There's no real solution coming from people. All I hear is like, oh, it's an economic solution. These people are coming to, the market will decide. No. Well, that's great, but the market's deciding that we're overwhelmed, that we're shipping them to places that say they want these immigrants, and then all of a sudden they don't want them, and now it's poo bad Texans.
Well, before we get into that, because I do want Corey and LSP to, and I'm curious what Lactoid thinks about the legality of it, of the lawsuit, right, that New York has against the Texas bus companies for shipping migrants from Texas to New York. I'm curious on that, but I need to read a few more super chats. $5 from Testicle Johnson to say, what about an American Ninja Warrior style obstacle course? And if they can complete it, they get citizenship.
Now that's
we only
based.
want the best after all. Like
I'm
a
all for
Survivor
American Ninja
kind of
Warrior.
game show, only like a citizen Survivor game show, maybe. $5 from Artemis Fowl. Don't let him only talk about the first summons. There are 2 summons. The second is an appeal for the denial from the first summons. I think I did mention that there were more than 1 summons. And $10 from Running Joke. Does the panel support a remain in Mexico policy? Why not? What do you think of that, gang?
I would have to clarify. I'm not sure I know exactly what that means.
I don't know. Maybe not. Like I would say it would probably depend on whether or not remaining in Mexico is to our best interest, to Mexico's best interest, or to the individual's best interest. If it's in nobody's best interest, don't remain in Mexico. If it is, remain in Mexico. I would just play it by ear.
Okay.
Well, first of all, who cares about what's been Mexico's best interest? I mean, we're talking about the U.S. right now here, okay? Like, listen, if people are coming and Mexico decide to let these people go through their southern border to come go north into ours, then maybe they should remain in Mexico, like, and let Mexico deal with it for a little while. Maybe we should. In their best interest. Like, do you just not believe in national sovereignty and like our government's having a duty to like help its citizenry first? Is that like an concept that's like gone out the window recently that I wasn't aware of?
No, I don't think the United States is the only country that deals with immigration issues. Like you seem to think that this is all, and you also seem to
I
think
do believe
it's only
in international law, though. And
yeah.
there are certain
we
stipulations
actually
about how you treat people there.
we actually have it pretty good, and this is maybe a little bit of pushback. We have it pretty. The American experience with immigration is much better than the European experience with immigration recently. Mexican immigrants tend to be relatively benign compared to North African or Middle Eastern immigrants.
That's a can of worms. Do we want to open that?
I'm open to it. Yeah.
It might be a little off topic for Gibbs in the American experience, but I suggest that probably
Well, the Texan experience. I think that Gibbs seems to only.
Oh, we got it way good.
He's got just tunnel vision
countries.
on Texas.
I live in Texas, by the way, so you can't just, you Northerners. I'm in San Antonio, dude. I'm a big immigrant city, hugely Hispanic. I see them all the time. It's not a big deal, but.
Oh, good. So, have you been to Eagle Pass recently?
Not recently, no.
Oh, maybe you should go take a gander and see what's going on over there before, like, you're sitting here going, "Oh yeah, let's let everybody."
What am I going to see? Okay, let's say I go to Eagle Pass. What will I
It's
see?
overwhelmed. Well, the tent cities everywhere. People are struggling. It's just the idea that, hey, let everybody come in. We don't have a plan. That's just like, there's no national
Did
sovereignty.
the government put them there?
People should just be able to. Well, thank God somebody put them
question at a
somewhere.
time, Gibbs. Who put them in tent cities? Did the governor?
Hopefully the governor. Otherwise, they just congregated them.
Okay, so hopefully you like the tent cities then.
I like it better than, hey, let's just let everybody come flooding in like it's like an invasion, like it is basically. Then I'm okay with the tent cities. I think we need like more, like I said, we need more and stronger. Is basically what I need.
I'm curious, since you see it as an invasion, like what would you think of like the Minutemen militia like opening fire on like migrants trying to cross? Would you be like okay with that?
Well, they're not a lawful authority, but if we wanted the border patrol to open up fire,
it's an invasion. Like, what do you mean? We're being invaded. You need lawful authority to say you can engage with the invaders?
Where do you think they should live other than tent cities? Just out of curiosity.
Wait, who's that to me? Or
who is that to?
Yeah, to you. Like, where should do you think they should have like housing built for them? Do you think they should have like where would they live if not in tent cities?
Obviously, if you're going to detain them, I think you need detention centers to suit them. If we don't have the space in detention centers, we need to build more detention centers, or we need to find a smarter way to do this. So where should they live? They should live in detention centers until like they appear. Right.
Well, let's just say we stop detaining them and then they just come across the border and we don't build them tent cities. I mean, the outcome is that they're just going to live in the streets, right?
No, I don't think that's necessarily true. Do the majority of immigrants who come here live in the streets?
if they're illegal and they have no like prior connections.
I don't
here?
think the majority of illegal immigrants even live in the streets, even those without prior connections. They tend to find motel rooms to stay at. They'll shack up with like their employer. Somebody sets them up. Like that's
okay. So maybe we can build a bridge here. Then,
yeah.
should we just have a system then where if they come over, they're responsible for finding their own place to live and their own services, and then we just like can let as many as we want,
Yeah,
and then that way. Yeah, and then the only the ones that will work and kind of earn their keep.
Yeah, the only circumstance where I'd be like in favor of giving anybody housing is it's some sort of an emergency situation where you're going to have to detain them. Like I'm not in favor of giving out housing to immigrants just because they're immigrants. No, if that's where you're getting at.
When you say an emergency, like an emergency, what is that referring to?
I mean, like you've detained them for some reason, so now you have to house them somewhere before you have them do a hearing or for deportation or something to that effect. Like you have to monitor.
Okay. Okay.
So for some situation where the government's going to have to monitor somebody, which is going to happen, you're going to have to house them somewhere. I get it. That's fine. But no, I don't favor just like you're here. Here's your America coupon. Go find a place to live.
Do we think that the detainment centers that we currently have and use on the southern border are adequate or good or working as intended, etc.?
Well, no, they've been like the subject of shame, like amongst the international community for quite a bit because I think of their like subpar conditions, right? Like they ended up like I think a big thing is like they're separated by cages, like almost like open air prisons. Then there's when we're out of space, we open up tent cities, which is again Texas is hot as shit, probably not smart. I don't think our immigration centers like show us to be the first world country we actually are. Very poor conditions. I don't think anybody wants to go to immigration centers. That's why there's been so many scandals regarding immigration centers.
Well, 𝕵𝖎𝖎 mentioned this earlier, and I think it's worth kind of tying into the main discussion. So from what I'm hearing, it sounds like a lot of you think we have, on both sides, think we have issues with how we run our immigration system, whether we let too many in or whether the border control is safe or not, etc. But Europe is having a demonstrably worse time than we are. Is that not maybe evidence that the system we are using actually works better than the EU system and other countries who are struggling more system?
I don't think so. I think the reason Europe's struggling is because there's a few different reasons for Europe struggling. One, they've got a Schengen zone, which allows a lot of free travel between states without like any border checkpoints. So this is good for like commerce, this is good for immigration, this is good for them, right? It makes sense for EU citizens. But once you start integrating migrants, which is just asylum seekers is really what it is, asylums from like these Middle Eastern conflicts, which is what the majority of there's conflicts coming from, Middle East and North Africa. It's a lot harder to keep tabs on people. People are coming in from different cultures where they're typically impoverished. There is a culture of discrimination against non-whites there, just much the same way there is here, just very vicious depending on where you go. There's also a lot of conflict between like European states on how to handle this without any like real resolution. Whereas from the United States, at least we have a federal law to kind of guide us. EU law, it doesn't seem very good.
We have sanctuary cities. We have people who like to act as if the United States is of a single voice on this is just
no. The United States is not of a single voice. I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to give that implication, but But the U.S. as a federal government is better at managing its bureaucracy than the EU as a confederation of different states and different governments, different state governments. Right. We've already got our separation of powers issues sorted. Right. Feds up here, states down here. Like
you've been at it for longer, so you got a head start.
Any other thoughts on this line, or do we want to?
Oh. I don't know that we have got those issues sorted because every time Texas tries to do something, the government sues us. I don't know if the separation of powers it's just like we're being told that we can't even defend our backyard. I don't understand how you can say we've got our issues sorted. But yeah, I think if we look at immigration from and overseas, I think the reason why is not necessarily even because our immigration policies are good. It's because I think that since it's mainly Hispanic immigration and Latino immigration coming down, their cultures are much more similar to United States cultures in that regard. Like they want to come here, people argue like, oh, they want to come here for work. Oh, they're escaping, socialist or communist countries. They want to come to a capitalist society. These are all things that they're like, hey, we're coming here, we're making a better life. Versus these people over in Europe, it seems like they're not as culturally similar to the European states. So when they come here, they bring their culture, and they all of a sudden you have a culture clash, and that's causing a lot of issues over there. So no, I don't think it has anything to do with the immigration policy so much as it does has to do with similar cultural styles of mingling.
Okay, fair enough. I guess for my part, I struggle because I do think that the inhumane border patrol policies are causing unnecessary deaths, right? So it's not just to your words, or your hypothetical earlier, Lactoid, where if you built a fence and someone tried to climb over that fence, even if you had like razor wire and stuff on it, would you be responsible? I mean, if you put like bear traps and electric like cattle prods and all these booby traps on it, yeah, kinda, right? I do think that you would be responsible for the harm that these things do, to an extent. Like this seems over and above what's necessary in order to stop reasonable people, right? Now that isn't to say that we shouldn't have anything on the border or have any kind of border control or any kind of border security. But these kind of jigsaw-like traps that are being currently placed seem just entirely inhumane to me. What are your thoughts there?
I agree.
Do you actually like? So if I put bear traps in my backyard,
like if you put like a claymore mine, right, on the other side of that fence, so when someone climbs over it and tries to break in, the claymore like kills them. Yes, I think that's wrong, and you should be held responsible.
Wick, on this subject, well, let me ask you this. I don't agree with that. Well, if someone breaks into my house and I shoot them, is that inhumane?
No, but
okay. So if they're crossing my fence in my backyard and I shoot them on my property, is that inhumane?
Yeah, it can be.
If they wait, if they step on your lawn, your front lawn, is it possible to shoot them?
We're talking about somewhere we got a border, like, so I guess I'm talking backyard. So if they come into my backyard,
you got a 1 foot, like the typical surrounding your lawn, and they step over that.
And I have signs saying trespassers will be shot, and that's all I have. I don't have any of these bear traps. And as soon as you cross the thing, I put a cap in you.
Why don't you just try this out and let us know? Get back.
I'm just asking. Okay? Do you think that's inhumane? Like, would you say that's like an inhumane thing? Because I mean, it's a castle laws would say some states would argue that I would have the right to do that, right?
We have castle laws in the state of Texas. I'm telling you, the state of Texas is not going to let you just shoot somebody.
If you cross on your property, you definitely are within your legal rights to shoot somebody. If you have posted signs saying trespassers will be shot.
Those poor Girl Scouts.
You got to be careful.
Those poor Girl Scouts trying to sell you cookies, right? Yeah, like there's context here that matters.
I know Texas. I know Texas, along with Indiana, have some of the most expansive, like, defend your own property kind of laws, where so I don't know if this is not the case, but I know in most states there is a distinct difference between your house and your lawn, right? If somebody's trespassing on my lawn, I generally don't have the right to shoot them, but if they are trespassing in my house, I do. But I think this actually kind of highlights an interesting, or I guess like a reasonable solution, which is if I put up a fence around my yard and somebody gets injured crossing over that fence, I generally don't have a responsibility to them, right? They can't come back and sue me. Now they could try, right? But if they're like scaling your fence that you said, like, because it creates the impression of, well, the only reason somebody could be scaling this fence is if they're trying to trespass, right? It's not like the Girl Scout. It's not like somebody who is like stepped on your lawn accidentally because they stumbled, right? It's somebody who scaled a fucking fence. And I'm curious, let's say we did build a wall on the southern border and we put spikes on top of it, and like 25 people are killed every year by being impaled on the spikes. I think this is a whole different level of responsibility than if we're like setting up machine gun nests and shooting people who happen to like stray over the border, perhaps because of like the idea of intention, right? Somebody crossing a barrier to me demonstrates more of an intention of trespassing and violating you, as opposed to somebody who thinks it's okay to walk on your lawn because there's no barrier. So I guess I kind of disagree with like shooting people who let their dog poop in your lawn. But I don't
or the
disagree.
postman.
Or the postman or Girl Scouts.
Or someone who like threw their
with...
frisbee and it went over your fence and now they're trying to get their frisbee back. There's a lot of
Was it the Girl Scout thing? Like, Your Honor, did you see those cookie prices? I was being robbed, okay?
Now, and you really can't even set traps in your own house. I mean, we don't live in a free country, to be honest with you. But I think you should be able to, right? I think that you should be able to set bear traps in your own lawn. You're telling me I can't set bear traps in my own fucking lawn, like guarded by a fence? Like, who's... Okay, let's say it's a 30-foot high fence.
Well, first of all, thank you, Brittany Simon Raiders. We're talking about immigration and we're talking about border control today and morality regarding that. Tomorrow, gang, Brittany Simon's going to be on my show. We're going to be taking your calls, so it'll be great. Here's a question from a super chatter, and I think it bears asking to Gibbs and to Lactoid. This one's for you. If the shoe was on the other foot, what would you do to survive? And let me elaborate on this, right? So you are from a country who is experiencing massive poverty, massive amounts of violence, massive amounts of crime. You and your family have to get out. I mean, if you don't, the cartels are going to get you, right? Like, you are fleeing for your life. You're ignorant. You don't know the laws of how to get... You have no connections to do this right. All you know is that if you can get past the border, you'll at least have a chance at safety. Why wouldn't you do that, right? And why is it moral for us to put up such strenuous, onerous barriers, dangerous barriers to people who are just trying to be safe and be free?
I mean, first, I'll take crack at this. First of all, the idea that cartel is just going to get you willy nilly is bullshit. Let's just hit that. Like, all right. So, like, if I'm living in, say, Mexico, let's just pick Mexico because it's our neighbor. There are how many millions? The idea that every person in Mexico is somehow tied to the cartel, and that everybody needs to immigrate from like Guatemala or other countries, and every person in these countries is tied to the cartel, and the cartel is going to get them. Is bullshit. There's millions of people that still live in these countries and go about their day-to-day lives and have no interaction with the cartels at all. At all. So, first of all, I would say in that scenario, what was I doing to have been involved with the cartel that makes them want to come get me? That's a good question I think we need to talk about.
Does it matter?
So, yeah, it does. It does matter, because if I was sitting here involved with the cartel that to the point that they're going to come bang me, then I must have done something, pretty heinous that makes the cartel want to come do that. That's a real concern.
My man's never grown up on the streets.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they're not just going around like willy nilly, like macheting random people. Like, oh, there's a baby, shoot him. But like, that's not what they're doing. Like, that's laughable. Like, I mean, so it's also almost racist to imply that every person coming from these Latin American countries is somehow tied to the cartel and are just all these corrupt people that have to escape, the cartel.
It's hypothetical, man. Like I'm saying, in the situation that they were, why would we put up these borders? So you can argue, and I think it'd be correct to argue, that not everyone is in that situation, obviously, and not everyone should be let across the border, obviously. But the situation that we have now, at least in my opinion, it is too restrictive for what we want. I think good evidence of that is how hard it has been to get Terps into this country. What is a Terp? An interpreter. People who risk their fucking lives, right? Their heinous thing that they did that got them hated by the cartel or the terrorist group where they are at home was they worked with the American soldiers to try to help them and be an interpreter. That's the heinous thing they did. And the struggle that we had to get those people in, it's unforgivable, in my opinion. It's an unforgivable failing. $5 from Artemis Val to say, can the pro-immigration side explain why the asylum seekers went home when Trump enforced the stay in Mexico policy if their homes were so dangerous?
No. No, I can't explain it. I don't know what he's talking about. No, I can't
So,
explain it.
again,
So yeah, I was reading about this remain in Mexico policy.
Yeah.
It's Wikipedia page, so I'm not yet fully familiar with it, but maybe I can give an answer in a moment.
Can I, while he's reading, then I just want to answer the prior question
Please.
about what if I was in this position?
Yes.
I despise. I understand why people ask it, but I actually don't like the question because having a personal interest in something, I think, is actually it's a point against your opinion, right? Because it demonstrates that you have some kind of like personal interest in this. So like the family of someone who gets murdered, I don't think should be dictating the sentence for the murderer because they're fucking mad, right? Because they have a tremendous interest in punishing this person with, torture for 1,000,000 years because they're experiencing a lot of harm, a lot of hurt, and they're not in the best position to really evaluate what the best idea is. So, could it be true that if I was, in some like bombed out, area, or if I was experiencing threats from local crime lords, that I would like want to get out for sure? But that's not. I actually think that would make my opinion less relevant to the question of immigration, because the question of immigration is not like, well, how would I feel if I was the one suffering? It should be about what is the best policy based on like objective considerations.
Can I?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you missed the point, 𝕾𝖍𝖎. It's more about like what will humans do to get out of their situation. So you're trying to imply empathy here, not to say like I got a personal perspective and now it's none of that, right? Human condition. You're going to try and improve your circumstances as much as you humanly can. So if you're somebody who's dealing with the cartel, because guess what, you grew up in a cartel-controlled town. Your whole life's been the cartel. Like you just grow up with this. This is a case with a lot of crime. People just grow up around it, and it's just part of their communities. And you're trying to get away from that, or your family's poor and they're struggling. And hey, you know what? I got a family. I got to do right by them. I need to get work. You're going to go through some extreme lengths to try and do right by your family. And a lot of these people who are crossing, they're not doing it other than to get like a job to support themselves and support their families. Obviously, despite how hard it is, despite the fact that the journey is dangerous, despite the fact that the journey is full of corrupt men that will abuse them, or the threat of border patrol catching them, or the drowning in the Rio Grande, or cutting themselves on razor wire, they're still making the journey. So the point is, you're supposed to look at the human condition and what people desire, and recognize that you need more carrot, less stick. The stick's not working. You're beating the shit out of them. They're still crossing, right? So just
but if you add razor wire to that stick, though,
I don't think that was the point of the question.
I'll
we
address
may
the question
just real quick. We may have to have a panel on Friday about Iran. I guess it directly fired on U.S. bases in Iraq.
Oh, well.
Well, they did that after. They already did that before when we blew up Soleimani or whatever, that one guy.
Yeah. Soleimani,
Fair enough. Anyway, sorry. Continue. I want
to address that. Like, so let me just go with this. All right, let's just play this game that y'all want to play here. So say I'm sitting here. I'm some corrupt person who I like stole from the cartel, and now I'm fleeing for my life with my family, and we want to get across the border. You know what the answer is? Yeah, I would do everything it took, and that's why we need stronger border patrol, because now you're letting somebody like me, who's a corrupt cartel member, escape across the border free willy-nilly because I decided I would do whatever it took to get here in the United States, and now I know y'all's laws are laughable and not enforced, because y'all didn't even enforce the border wall and didn't enforce the border immigration laws. So now I know I can just commit whatever crimes I want because I just did whatever it took to get here. So yeah, I definitely think that, yeah, by even this own little scenario, we're going to be empathetic, that even by then, by that scenario, it just proves that we need stronger immigration reform and stronger immigration security.
Just to note, like, this implies the opposite. Like, if you have to sneak over to get over here, the border's not open. The laws are being enforced. If that was the case, that nobody's enforcing, you could just walk across.
That's what they're doing.
Obviously, these people are evading. Obviously, no, they're swimming across. They're
because there's a river there. They're swimming across a river.
I'm saying, because the border crossing is being controlled and the laws are being enforced.
And like cutting the fence, and they're not enforcing it, and people are sitting there having to watch.
On the fences. What are your thoughts on the razor wire that Abbott just set up? Did you see that?
I mean, I think we should put more razor wire. I think we should put more of those buoys back out there. I think maybe we should get some drones. Maybe we put some landmines. I mean, all sorts of stuff. Let's DMZ that border, and people will stop coming across, and it'll be a deterrent, and they'll have to come to legal avenue.
Let's walk up to this. You put landmines down on the border, right? and a family comes across and they step on a landmine, and now they're limbless. They're bleeding all over the desert, right?
Should have came the legal
what do
way.
Okay, what do you do? Do you help them, or do you just leave them to bleed out, or what?
I mean, maybe mercy kill them. I don't know. It depends on what side of the border
Mercy
they're on.
kill 'em?
I mean, like, it's called a deterrent for a reason.
Well,
Play stupid games with stupid prizes.
They made it to our side. They're on the banks of the Rio Grande. They have no legs. Do you just leave them there, or what?
Yeah, you shouldn't have came. You should have gone through the legal way. Sorry, tough tits.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
So just to answer the prior, I don't think that the purpose of, well, what would you do if you're in this situation? I don't think the purpose of that is to like to fully understand the motivations in order to like provide a carrot and sticks kind of analysis. I think the purpose of that question is to try to get you to like abandon reason and to sympathize with the plight of a person who's undergoing this in order because they're the one suffering from it. This is what you can't like. You can't ask juries this question, by the way, because we know that when you poison the well by like getting people to imagine, well, what if I was in this scenario, makes them self-interested and makes them abandon reason. You can't, like in a lawsuit about sexual harassment, ask a jury, well, how would you feel if you were sexually harassed? Like that's not something you can do. It's against the rules. It's against the golden rule, actually, is what they call it. So no, I don't think that like imagining what it would be like if I was born in a terrible situation is relevant to the question of immigration. I think the question of immigration is, okay, we know XYZ policies have XYZ effects.
On that, can I real quick? I mean, it seems obvious to me that knowing why people do what they do is the opposite of abandoning reason. Barriers, circular saws, razor wires. The effects these are having is that it's killing people. So it seems like employing reason would be looking at what we're doing, seeing that it doesn't work. It's just killing people. Maybe we need to think of a different solution. But that's me.
Why is okay? I don't disagree that knowing why they're doing it. What I'm trying to like dig out is why is it important for me to be able to imagine if I was in this scenario? Why is it important for me to be able to empathize with this? It doesn't seem to be like an important part of an actual analysis of the issue.
Well, understanding motivation and why there's perhaps such a strong desire to leave their circumstances.
Sure, and we can like look at the reasons they cite, and we can look at the situation in Mexico and South America. But are you guys really denying that when you say, well, lactoid, what if you were born in a terrible place? Like, wouldn't you just try to escape? Don't you just want a better life for you and your family? You're obviously there's more to that than just like an objective understanding of things. You're trying to get me to feel bad. That's what you're trying to do. Right?
Why is that?
I don't really care if you feel bad. I don't really care if you feel bad. But I'm just saying, if you were in a board situation, of course you would try to improve your situations. It makes sense that you would try to improve your situations. The job of policymakers should be to figure out how to best help you facilitate a better circumstance for you and your family. I think that makes sense.
But policymakers need to do it for their citizenry first.
If I may. To that point, we do have refugee status and other ways to become legal in this country, right? Through legal means that are predicated on how bad of a situation you have in your home country, like how much threat you are under. These are things that we have policy in place for. So I reject the notion that simply asking these questions is simply asking you to abandon reason. No, these questions should be asked because we need to know, like, this is part of why we put the laws in place, right? There are people who are struggling out there who do want a better life. And like it or not, America does have methods in place where these people can apply to be refugees or seek refugee status with America. Do we disagree with that as a concept, though? Like, do you think we should just get rid of refugee status just in general, or?
I think it's being abused, specifically asylum as well. Under U.S. law, asylum should not be used for people who are just trying to escape crime generally. It's really only there. It's a post-World War II policy that's meant to protect people from genocide, right? Or like mass oppression by their government. It's not meant to like for people to dodge gangs. And that's what a lot of people are using it for.
Well, that just means we just need to change our laws better so that it can accommodate people who are trying to dodge gangs. Because that seems like a pretty valid reason to flee to me. Like, it seems like a pretty valid reason to to try to go to another country is like gang violence actually threatens your life. That would make sense to me.
So the effect of this is going to be more lax immigration, specifically with countries with higher crime rates.
Do a background check. Don't discriminate.
Background
against
check.
individuals.
They're from Mexico. Background check where?
Yeah, what
Are you saying this is
what
beyond us? Well, okay. Well, by this logic, why don't allow zero immigrants in? Right? They could all be criminals, right?
Who's doing these background checks? Like, what system are you? So you say background check? Are they gonna just like? Do you think Mexico?
We already do background checks.
Hold on, you think Guatemala? Yeah.
Process.
So what kind of like system do you think we're just gonna plug
I
in
know
Guatemala and just like
has
they just have they have such a good criminal justice system that we can just go in there and find out all these people like that are coming here and they're throwing away their IDs allegedly and just all of a sudden we can just find out all the information. Like I spoke to my friend Juan too last night before I came on this panel and he was sitting here telling me a story. He's like, you know what I did when I first came here to America? First thing he did was he bought papers. He literally bought papers with a different name, different social security, all this stuff came out here. So whenever you say, oh, I'm going to go do a background check, you know, we're just like, there's a wholesale like black market system where they buy papers of like deceased people or like they have fake papers and none of this stuff's going to show. So we're like, yeah, we're just going to background check them. Like, that's really easy to say. But it's like we don't even know who these people are because they have all fake paperwork that looks legit.
Gibbs, are you in the position that like we can't trust background checks then?
I think that's laughable. We need a much more in-depth system that we need than we have currently.
So you're not against background checks. You just want more robust background check.
We have to enforce it in Guatemala somehow.
Yeah, that's the problem. And who's going to pay for this?
I don't disagree with that. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Who's going to pay for background checks? The American taxpayer, who's the interested party in doing the background check.
I mean, like, how else do you want to limit it other than background checks? Or are you just saying that after a certain quota of people, no more, right? So after, let's say, because your claim here, Gibbs, is that there's hundreds of thousands of people coming across the border every month.
I mean, it's not a claim.
Well, I think you said millions.
It's millions. I think there's like 4 million in the last like couple of years. Yeah.
Well, wait. Okay. So yeah, I just want to get it
millions.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, so
just in this month, in the peak was like 438,000.
So if
peak
you would advocate for like a numerical cap that's less than that. So
no, so I think this is confusing for a lot of people because I'm a very pro immigration. I think immigration is great. I actually have a lot of the same points as I think it's good for the economy. I think we needed to compete with like countries like China and like India where they have much larger populations. I think immigration is good. We just need some kind of reform to where it's a legal immigration system where it's easier for people that want to come work and we can like have the background checks, we have the security, but we also at the same time we got to enforce the border. Like this idea that anybody can come here for any reason is a bad plan. Like it's a bad plan. We've seen in Europe what's happened when people have just been flying over there and you see these culture crashes and you see all these other kind of things. Just the idea that we can just let anybody in for any reason is fine. The idea that our border isn't enforced, like what does that tell on our enemies? Oh, we can just sneak in there across. Like, I mean, are you telling me we don't have any spies that have come across this way? Do
you think that the Chinese spies that we've caught have come in illegally?
I think that maybe some of them have. I feel like people are coming in any different way.
If I was a government and I wanted to spy on a country, sending somebody across the border seems like the dumbest way to do it.
Are you telling me you don't think that a single person, you don't think a single spy or nefarious agent has come across the border illegally? You tell me you don't think a single one?
Didn't the 9/11 guys have like student visas?
Sure, but I think that's not what I'm asking. You don't think a single person?
I don't think so. I don't know of any spies that came over illegally, like as an illegal immigrant crossing the border to Mexico like that. Like, no, I don't know any of that. Do you? Like, is there a spy that did that?
I mean, there's weird stuff that happens all the time. I'm just saying.
Okay. So you don't know either. It could be or couldn't. Okay,
I mean,
we're back to square one then, aren't we?
I'm just saying we don't know because we don't have any kind of border defense going on. How would we know when we don't have any kind of security? People are cutting our fences down. I mean, like, how would we know? How would we find out that information whenever we're sitting here going,
"Oh, look, all the spies I know have been caught sleeping with like mayors and shit like that, right? Like they're not like
we're working for Donald Trump.
That's just wild.
Yeah, they're not exactly poor immigrants that are clumbing over the border. They're already they're in the high class. They're already swap and spit with the most powerful people in the country because of course they are, right? Like that's where the information is. That's where the influence is. So and in China, at least in in Canada, I can't speak for America, but there are issues where China has bought land, right, and basically set up little secret police stations within the country, and they basically go and harass Chinese immigrants and things like that. It's look it up. It's kind of horrific. But $5 from Artemis Fowl. I am now ready to crash a party. We'll get to. It's only been an hour. We got call-ins, sure, but it's going to be a little bit more. It's going to be a little bit longer. Okay. We gotta get the panel some time to cook a little bit. So yeah, this idea of the border is what is preventing spies from coming over is just silly.
Let me ask you this, Wick. You're saying that in the history of the United States, not a single spy has ever possibly come over the border illegally. You don't think a single one?
I don't know any. Do you know any?
I don't think that there. Look, if one did,
then,
let's say one did.
right.
Let's say it was one in the history of the United States. There was one. Do you think it's worth like fucking around for that one? Like
so
fucking with the border shit for that one?
So let me ask you this. So when the U.S. military decides, like, hey, we're going to go kill Osama, right, in Pakistan, right? Like, we came in, we just ignored.
I think it happened.
Right, yeah. So we decided we're going to do that. We came in, we just crossed their border willy-nilly and did what we wanted, right? Because we're the superpower, right?
We had a Black Hawk helicopter with SEAL Team 6.
Right,
and,
so we came in.
Good luck trying to stop us. Yeah.
Exactly, right? Okay, so here's the same thing, basically. We have a border where it's not enforced, and now anybody can willy-nilly cross it. Do you not see the same problem?
Yo, if they got a Black Hawk helicopter and SEAL Team 6, God bless them.
I think I'm not in Texas, so I can't speak to the first-hand experience. But I think you might be. I understand it's a lot of people, but I don't know that it's exactly willy-nilly. I don't know if that's a really most descriptive term. Just like
the border's not like being protected. I don't know what half these border patrol
we've had cartel. I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example exactly what I'm talking about. We've had cartel hitmen come across illegally and shoot people up in Laredo. It's happened a lot of times. They've come across the border and they've literally pulled up 2 cars side by side, mow people down, and then go leave. Now that may not be a spy. It might not be a spy. But you have nefarious agents of a foreign power. The cartel has come across the border illegally. We don't have papers on these people. They got here and done this. And we're sitting here going, oh, well, yeah, poo-poo, look at the crazy Texan. He's paranoid. When we're sitting here literally dealing with nefarious agents all the time doing these kind of things. Cartel hit squads, Zeta hit squads. It happens regularly. So for y'all to sit here and go, oh, it never happens. Oh, it's you're just poo-poo, crazy. You're not living in reality because it's already happening.
$20 from 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙 Jr. To say, legit. I'm not sure how to say that word. Whatever. Guy, thank you for the $20. Google from DHS Yearbook 2022. The Refugees and Asylum 2022 data tables. Refugee arrivals by region in 2022. Africa, 45%. Asia, 37%. Europe, 23%. North America, 8%. South America, 2%. What is your perception of the average person crossing the border?
Look, if it's going to be asylees, like if we're looking at overall people crossing the border, it's overwhelmingly going to be Mexico and South America. I know there's questions as to specific categories. Also, the numbers aren't 100% accurate because those are reported numbers. There's other estimates of illegal immigration that are consistently higher. And there's very credible sources that indicate this. For refugees specifically, not asylees, I'm not, in fact, to be honest with you, I'm not fully educated on the difference between the two when it comes to federal law.
Fair enough. Well, what's your so I guess I get your point, Gibbs, when it comes to the people coming over, doing a hit and driving back. But I don't know if the solution here is more like death traps, right? I don't know if that's going to stop the cartel. They are so much more equipped than the average citizen, or the average refugee, I should say, or the average border crosser. All these razor wire traps and these circular saw buoys in the river are going to keep the women and children out, but the gangsters that are able to set up a hit across a border where they drive in armed with AKs and shit, it's not gonna it's not gonna work.
I mean, so I hear that argument a lot, right? And here's my counter to that, right? Is it's twofold. One is people want to say, oh, it's not going to keep out the gang members, so we should just not do anything, right? I mean, I think that's ridiculous. First of all, like if that's the case, oh, why do we have laws at all? Like, why do we have laws at all if we're going to just sit here and go, oh, just let them do whatever they want, just come through. It's not going to stop the people we want. So why do we have drug laws? Why do we have gun laws?
It's not
Why
binary.
do we have these laws?
Look, it's not you set up machine gun nests with minefields or you do nothing. These aren't our choices, right? There's a whole host. There's a whole
one of the choices in Gibbs is, I mean, he wants that binary.
So let me give you this. Let me give you an example. So why do we have a drinking age of 21? To make it more difficult for minors to drink, correct?
Well, we had Reagan put it to 18
penalty,
for a while,
for
but
those who
driving,
violate.
like skyrocketed. It was an issue. There's a lot. It's not as simple as you're saying.
But I mean, it is. It is that simple. It's a deterrent. It's a major deterrent. It stops people.
So are you in favor? Are you in favor of the death penalty for those who do underage drinking? You want that deterrence? Isn't that the strongest deterrence?
All right, so
for your binary world,
this is where it's the equivalency kind of falls apart, right? So first, right, it is a death penalty in a sense for economically. If you sell to minors and you're caught, they take away your liquor license. You can lose your business. You lose your way of life.
That's not a death penalty. I'm being explicit. I'm being explicit. Just as your immigration policy appears to be from I don't know, the Ivan Drago school of immigration. If he dies, he dies. And so for underage drinking, are you okay with explicit capital punishment?
It's not that no, for underage drinking, no. But for immigration, whenever we're crossing the border, yeah, I think sovereign states should have the right to enforce their borders with deadly force. Absolutely. I think that is like, what's the point of having a country then? Let's all just be one country, completely one world order, and we don't have any whatever.
There's a spectrum. Even within your own laws, you're not for capital punishment if you happen to get whatever, if you happen to jaywalk or underage drinking. You seem to recognize that there's a spectrum of enforcement.
Yeah, but you're kind of missing what I'm saying, which is that, we have a big part of this is deterrence, right? If it's so difficult for someone to get across the border, like illegally, and the only people doing it are the gang members, right, or the cartels, then we could go, okay, so we know we got to start finding how they're getting here, right? So now that we have such a hard deterrence that people can only go legally if they're, not in a cartel, then we can start focusing on where the cartel people are getting in, right? It's a twofold thing, right? So y'all are sitting here acting like this is happening in the vacuum. And you're like, oh, look at this guy. He's just crazy. He wants everybody to die. It's like, I actually want less people to die. If you put a hard enough border to where it forces people to go through the legal avenues, then that's going to cause better legal immigration. We're going to be able to have an idea who's coming. We're going to stop the sex trafficking. We can slow some of the flow of some of this fentanyl that's coming across in droves. We can find out where the cartel's coming and start plugging those holes. It's a multi-pronged problem that has been solution.
Yeah, can I ask you about your solution starting with enforcement? Can I ask you about your enforcement side of your solution? Are you wouldn't be against watchtowers with border patrol agents shooting migrants who crossed, right?
I mean, let's get some drones up there too. While we're at it, just Hellfire missile them. Let's go the full 9 yards.
Let's say it kills 1 million people a year. Are you fine with that?
I mean, let's just North Korea DMZ the border. Why don't we just go that far?
Yeah,
North Korea doesn't seem to have
okay, this is the third time we've gone down this. He's obviously okay with any amount of enforcement.
So
we
know billion
this.
people.
Yes.
Yeah, but I want to see if there's a body limit to it. If it kills 1 million people a year,
I don't think there is. I'm pretty sure.
Because I believe in sovereignty of the national border. Yeah, I mean,
10 million a year. You're fine with
it? There is a limit, right? There's only so many people south of the border.
Eventually,
they're going to. He's
entire South American continent while you're at it. I mean, what do you want me to say? 5 billion people?
I just want to see if you're so dedicated to this, you would.
This is silly, though. How many okay, LSP though? Come on. What if our laws caught 1 million rapists a year and we had 1 million of rapists a year in prison? It's 1 million people. What if it was 1 billion people that we caught for rape and things like that? Well, yeah, if they're rapists, they should be in jail no matter how many there are, right? So there should be enforcement. The numbers are
trying to get enforcement.
Yeah.
Well, the numbers here are different because he's advocating for policies he knows will result in human death, and he knows that the majority of those who die are probably not cartel members.
Okay.
Probably not here to do any crime. He's just enforcement on its face, right? It doesn't even matter the reason. You're not allowed to cross that way at all. So
Yeah, absolutely.
this
I mean,
policy is going
it's
to
called
kill.
rule of law. A rule of law. I mean, I
Yeah,
know
this
rule of
policy
law
will kill
seems to be
women
a
and
hard
children and stuff
concept
like
for you.
that. And you're like,
Okay.
well, that's the rule of law. So it's just like,
Let's
all right.
let's move on. I do have another question. Recently, California. Okay. Are you guys familiar with the law that was passed by, I think it was Gavin, was it Gavin Newsom who passed this, allowing illegal immigrants and people here illegally
Healthcare.
access to healthcare and things like that? What are our thoughts on that? Do we think that's wise? What do we think the effects will be, right? Given that at least in New York City, there are reports of welfare recipients in New York City being unable to get access to their welfare because, like in things like the food lines and food pantries and stuff, illegal immigrants are getting there first, and there's just not enough to go around. What
Well,
are
that's pretty based.
yeah, what are the answers that you have to that, Corey and LSP?
Yeah, that is a valid issue for sure. That I don't think there are any really, at least immediate, good answers. So I will sort of use a Canadian example where this is, believe it or not, there are immigrants that come to Canada. There are people that do desire to live in Canada, and this is something that we're struggling with.
But go on.
Yes, in order to, I think Canada pretty much only experiences population growth as a result of immigration, and that we pretty much also require immigration to drive our economy and fulfill labor shortages. But also at the same time, it totally puts a stress on our infrastructure, where there's a housing crisis pretty much all across Canada, and we pretty much we want to accept people, we want to address labor shortages, but we literally have no place, or rather, we have no housing or shelter for them, which I assume that's also a similar issue for the United States. But I do believe that the resources are there to address these things. I think these are just this is largely just like a funding issue, just as the housing crisis in Canada, multiple ways to address it, but that large funding issue, it is a funding issue as well.
To be clear, you would be in favor of Gavin Newsom's law in California giving access to healthcare to the illegal immigrants. You think that's a good thing?
Well, in principle, I think it's a good thing. I understand it's probably not realistic or practical. I don't know the state of healthcare in California. I imagine just as in Canada, the healthcare infrastructure in the United States is not the greatest, and is generally overburdened. So I can see, again, I think that's probably overall morally good and in principle a good thing. But I can see that the practicality of it is probably not overly realistic. So unless it's coupled with increased funding or increased healthcare workers, I don't know if that's like a net positive. But I have to see the details of
Fair
the
enough.
law.
LSP, any thoughts on that? When it comes to the Gavin Newsom's healthcare policy in California, base, cringe, what do you think?
Generally based. How are you doing, Wick?
How am I?
Yeah, how are you? I haven't talked to you in forever, man. I miss you, my friend.
Well,
I'm just getting back. I want to see how you guys are doing.
I'm okay. Like, it's just a weird time to ask.
Right, yeah, on the policy, no time like the now. It seems inevitable to me that immigrants are going to need health care. There should probably be some sort of a system in place to pay for that, because I don't want doctors working for free. If you don't provide health care for them, which to me, provide health care means an insurance program, right? Some insurance program to manage their healthcare needs so that they can go to a doctor and have it paid for. Because if they don't, you're going to have the same problem you have with regular Americans, where they don't go to the doctor until whatever they've got is so serious they need to see a doctor. And if they can't afford it, then all that happens is that whatever they can't afford gets passed on to premium holders, or hospitals eat the cost. And I don't think that works for anybody. It seems sensible to me. The best policy is to just have an insurance program. I personally, I would like a universal insurance program that pays for everybody, but I think Medi-Cal exists, so California's already kind of got something like that. I don't know about New York, to be honest. I'm not so averse.
Sure.
Like,
I'm more interested in the Gavin Newsom thing than the.
Yeah, I would say it makes sense to have an insurance program that pays for people who can't afford their own healthcare, who don't have healthcare, even if that includes illegal immigrants.
Lactoid, what are your thoughts?
This kind of goes back exactly what I was saying, where it seems interesting how we're talking about. I thought we agreed that, well, no, there shouldn't be any free coupons, and there shouldn't be. We're concerned about the level of services. No, there shouldn't be free healthcare. I think that providing free services is part of the problem, right? Where you're not encouraging the people who are going to work and afford their own services. You're encouraging people who won't, right? Why is this a good thing? Why would, going back to Gibbs talking about deterrence? I think one of the best deterrents for the immigrants we don't want, which is the ones not working, is to not give them free services, right? How does this seems to go in the opposite direction? Because with sympathy, you can come up with, hey, well, they need housing, right? Well, we got to give them housing. And then you're going to be in the position where New York is, right? Where they're providing free housing to immigrants.
Gibbs?
I mean, to me, California is quickly becoming the first failed state in the United States. I mean, we have poop maps now. We have given away taxpayer dollars to pay for people that aren't citizens. It's just it's really a sad thing. It's basically doing the opposite of what I've been preaching. Is you're incentivizing coming to the U.S. Hey, come here. We're going to give you health care. Come here. The economy is better. We're going to give you this for free, right? As opposed to like, hey, our borders don't mean anything, so let's maybe put a wall or something up to deter them. It's just a terrible policy. It's taking the money from the citizens and giving it to non-citizens. That's already kind of not good. And then it's just theft all around. It's terrible. It's a terrible policy. I don't have all day. I can go just like bitch and moan about it, but yeah, you get the drift. It's a terrible policy.
So,
Can
go
I
ahead.
answer on that?
Go ahead.
You say like California is quickly on its way to becoming like the first failed state.
In the United
We're
States, yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about like the biggest economy in the United States.
Yeah,
Like,
they're
it's
also
not there
massively
yet.
in debt. I mean, it's
How
very
long does it
poorly
last
run.
before it, like totally?
I don't know. Have you been to
collapses?
San Francisco lately? I mean, have you seen the poop map? I mean, that was a whole meme, but it's a real thing. Apparently, the only
Sure,
time
like
California can do anything is when a foreign dictator comes to town. Like, so, I mean, it's just
it's a
impressive
failed
that
state
we're gonna.
because it's got a lot of poop. Like that's the criteria for a failed state.
I mean, by what metric do you want to talk about it being a failed state? Like the
Your
crime,
own.
the
You're
poop.
saying it's
Like,
a failed
there's
state.
a,
Like I'm
there's a
looking
ton
at
of
like the
metrics.
wealthiest state in the economy. Like
The
when's it
wealthiest thing.
failing?
I mean, it's
Yeah,
it's failing. I mean, like that's why there's mass immigration
failing
away
how?
from
Failing how?
California. Like I don't know which metric do you want me to pick? Crime, sanitation, homelessness is running rampant. I mean, your housing prices are either way too high for the average person, But then yet, there's just so many different like failed state like things you can say. Like I mean, they're taking tax money away from taxpayers and using it to pay for immigrant health care, over like prioritizing their own citizens. I mean, like it's a cesspool. It's honestly despicable.
Okay, so it's a failed state because it's a cesspool. It's obviously despicable and it has high crime. Is that clear? That was your position?
Did I stutter?
I'm asking because to show that I understand. I'm not. Did I
Yeah, I mean,
understand you correctly?
I can repeat that like 3 more times if you'd like, but yeah,
No, I don't think that'll be necessary. Just a simple yes would suffice. But yeah, okay, thank you.
This is more fun. But anyway, so Gibbs, do you not think like when it comes to advertising that people should come to the country, Reagan spoke of a shining city on a hill, right? And America should be, and we've had not just Reagan, but other presidents and other people have talked about America being a beacon to the nations, right? Give us your poor, your tired, your huddled masses, etc. Do you not believe in that?
I absolutely believe in it through legal immigration.
$10 from Legate Laney. Yeah, thank you, sir. $10 from Leggett Lanius Jr. to say, should refugees be able to choose where they would like to go in the U.S.? How many of them want to live in Casper, Wyoming? Top desired destinations for refugees are New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, and Miami. So I guess this is to LSP and Corey Campbell. Should they be allowed to travel freely within the American borders? While they're in process, to be clear, right?
Oh.
Assuming they haven't committed any crimes and they're not going to, I don't see why you would stop them.
Yeah, I would echo that same sentiment. Again, assuming that they're being processed and being essentially tracked, they're documented, essentially, then I don't see why you'd restrict it.
Okay, any counter?
It is kind of funny though that when they do go to New York, like the tone changes quite a bit. Like, oh shit, don't send them here.
Yeah, or California, where they're literally asking to build a wall against, like a metaphorical wall, to stop people from coming from Texas. It's like, wow, a little bit of the pot calling the kettle black there, with shoes on the other foot. Now it's a problem. We sent you 33,000, not even, the 400,000 that we had last month, and now they can't afford it. There's no room in New York for anybody. The right to housing thing that they've had for 30, 40 years or however long is now failing on its face because we sent them a few immigrants. And oh man, Texas, poo poo, bad people, bad Texans.
$5 from Erica Chenault. Living as an American, I'm assuming, in Italy, healthcare isn't free. It's just like the roads you drive on. I'd rather pay for everyone, not go in debt for one. I think that's a separate debate on socialized healthcare and things like that. But
taxes in general, right? It's glad that you would. It's glad. I'm happy that you would prefer to pay. But you can't just take that to assume that everybody with their money that's not yours wants to pay.
Yeah, taxation is a whole can of worms. I don't know if we want to get into it. I guess. Look, we're kind of winding down here. I got Artemis Fowl. He wants to get in on the discussion, and I know that you guys have other shows you got to do at 8, so I'm thinking of closing it out a little early and allowing call-ins for the last 20-30 minutes here. How's that sound?
I'll hang around if anybody wants to fight me in chat.
Your show.
Okay, gang, I want to give everyone here closing thoughts, closing statements on the immigration and border control, and I want to give them a chance to shout themselves out, tell you where they can find them. But we're not ending the show. We're going till 8, okay? And we're going to have some call-ins. So if you've been sitting there in the chat being like, oh my God, I really want to say something, now's your chance. Exclamation point Discord and chat. My mods will link some links to you. You click on that link, you accept the rules, you jump backstage, we'll pull you in, and you'll be able to ask the panel some questions. Please keep it concise. We will cycle through depending on how many we get, but let's go to closing statements. So we're going to do it in the reverse order we started. 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙, close us out.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you, Wick, for having me on. If you like what I had to say, you can find me at 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙 on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. My closing thoughts are: we can fix all immigration problems if we just legalize drugs and remove welfare accessibility. And this way, we know.
I'm happy for the first half.
I got you for the That this way we know that the people who are coming are going to be people who truly want to work. So,
where can people find you?
I like 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube.
Check him out, gang. He's really great, and he's going to be, I believe, on our show. Was it you who was going to be on my show next on Thursday?
I believe so.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about Trump's fascist rhetoric. It should be fun. Next up, we have Corey Campbell. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. Thank you so much for inviting me. Always a pleasure to be here, and always grateful to be here. I don't take it for granted. And I echo one of the things that my fellow Canadian lactoid said, which is, legalize all drugs. And yeah, immigration is tricky. And I'm not for open borders. I'm not for, a free flow of just like anybody can, enter the country willy-nilly, to use the words of some expert. And so, because yes, there is a limit to how much the infrastructure can take. Where, again, a Canadian perspective, there's a limit to our universal healthcare, and we can't accommodate everyone. And so there is a breaking point. Same thing with housing. But I think I think Canada can accept more than it currently does, and I think the United States can certainly accept a lot more than it currently does, and it can totally streamline the process much better. And so can Canada as well. But yeah, on the whole, immigration a net positive, and it should be done well. But yeah, you can find me on Twitch, Corey Campbell 84, Twitter, X, Instagram, YouTube. It's Corey Campbell. Thank you so much for having me.
Check him out, and thank you for being here, gang. Give him a follow, give him a sub, whatever you need. Great guy. Next up, Admiral Gibbs. Go ahead.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me, Wick. These are always super fun. I always enjoy these panels. Yeah, I mean, I feel like basically I've really hit home. My point is we need to have an enforceable, like some border, right? We need our border to be secured. We need heavy immigration reform to make it easier for people that want to come here for work to come here for the legal immigration. We need to invest in border security. This is one of the rare times where I break from my more libertarian counter. Friends who are all sitting here and say, hey, taxation stuff. Yeah, I think taxes should be used for something. And I think we need to build the infrastructure. We need to have a secure border. We need to have some kind of reform, immigration reform. I don't know what that reform looks like, but like I said, we're desperate. And it's just amazing to me, like I said, that this is only a southern state problem until, we started shipping people. Now people want to talk about this issue now that it's affecting them. So I just, when people want to talk about empathy, I want everybody to remember that be empathetic to your people, to your brothers down here within the states that are having to deal with this issue all on our own for many years now at this point. As for where to find me, Admiral Gibbs on everything.
I think my cam froze. Am I frozen to anyone else?
No,
Yeah,
just
you are
always
frozen.
look like that.
You are
Super
permanently
frozen.
consumed.
You were-
Okay, but thank you, Gank. Check him out. I'm gonna try to fix this frozen camera thing. Last but certainly not least, LSP. Give us some closing thoughts.
a
Uh-oh.
little bit. I don't know.
I think everyone froze now. No! Hold on, gang. Hold on.
Okay.
Oh,
Let's
am
go,
I
hey,
back?
LSP, let's go get some tacos this week or food this week.
Am I back yet? Hello? Oh, no. Oh, no,
I should have
gang.
Smash parties
It's a
like every other
Smash
week.
party.
You got to come over and smash it up with us.
Okay.
Oh,
Super Melee.
Oh,
Super
video
Smash
games.
Bros.
Gotcha.
Not that you.
Okay, I think they can hear you.
Weirdo,
I just
man.
think I'm, for whatever reason, no one can see
You
me
are
here.
two pixelated dots
Yeah.
moving in a square, and that's
I don't
how
know
I've always
what's wrong
pictured
with...
you.
Yeah.
That's you, the essence of you. It fits.
Close this out.
It's good to see all you guys. Yeah, you may close it. It's good to see everybody again. If I were president of the world, let me put it another way. 1,000 years into the future, let's assume America's still standing 1,000 years in the future. Is our immigration going to be fixed by the policies that Gibbs is suggesting or the policies I suggest? Just think about it, ponder on it. What's probably the most just way to do it, most humane way to do it? I think generally speaking, America is the wealthiest, most powerful country in the world. There's nothing we can't do if we put our minds to it. And that probably includes fixing immigration. But that's me. Anyway, thanks for having me, Wick. I'm going to stay, by the way, for your
Yeah,
callers.
of course. I hope you all will, because we usually end at 8, and we're ending a little early so we can get callers in. Gang, I don't know what's wrong with my camera, but if you like this content, if you've enjoyed the show so far, please take the time to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching this on Twitch or on Kick, remember to hit the follow button, give subs, give bits, super chats, all of it helps. Apparently, I need a new camera or something. So if anyone wants to throw me a bunch of money for that, that would be A-okay with me. I don't know what's wrong with it. I'm going to mess with it later. But for now, it's call-in time. And we do have a caller that wants to talk to the pro-immigration side, at least. And so we're going to bring him on and see what he has to say. Hello, Artemis, you're live.
Well, hello there.
I know you can't see me because
General Kenobi.
Try for the best.
my camera's broke or something. I don't know what's wrong with it. But go ahead. What do you got for us?
So there's a couple of issues I've been taking on this.
Wait, real quick. This is going to kill me. What's that accent?
It is it's one that's devoid of an accent.
Really? Okay.
Yes, you're not going to be able to pinpoint it because I intentionally do it like this.
But I identified it at least. There's an accent.
Well, the accent is that it doesn't tie me to any region. It's going to be really hard to do so.
Gotcha.
Now I can switch it up. I can get a southern draw in here.
That was terrible.
Well,
he's from the north.
southern as in
European of some kind.
Well, we'll find out. So I got a couple of questions before I get into the meat of this. For the Canadian that has no real skin in the game for this U.S. immigration debate, I have a question for you.
Yeah, you snow Mexican.
Sure.
Oh. So what is the population of Canada at this time?
I believe it's around 40 million, or we crossed 40 million, I believe, like in the past few months.
And do you know how many people per year that the United States gets in illegally that is undocumented?
Well, I don't know per year. Well, so the numbers. So I have a rough estimate of the. Well, so it's. You can't really get a good, accurate assessment of the undocumented immigrant population in the United States. But from what I understand, I don't know per year how much you get, but I know that there's roughly estimated to be between like 10 and 15 million undocumented individuals in the United States.
That is one of the lowest estimates I've ever seen in my life.
Okay,
Back
what
in the
is-
90s, and 2000s, it was 30 million illegal immigrants that have just been in the United States.
What are you citing? Can you cite something? Because I can cite something.
Interesting. Okay. Give me one second here.
Pew puts about 10.5 million unauthorized immigrants from Pew. That's up 2021.
Oh, that seems to be in line with what I said. And based off what I know of what you said previously, Artemis Fowl, you pretty much don't give any accurate information. So cite something.
Interesting. That is interesting. So I actually sent Wick the numbers for the second summons, where it actually shows that almost nobody shows up for the second summons, and they just flee into the interior of the United States. I don't know why you guys are citing interest groups for your fucking information instead of
I can cite an academic paper. So I can cite something. LSP has cited something. So you back up your numbers now. You want to give it at 30 million in the 90s. So what is it now? Is it now 60 million, 40 million? Give me a number.
Hold on. I thought, let's see here. Yale study finds that there are, let's find it here, twice as many undocumented immigrants as previous estimates, since this is back in 2018. This is bare minimal. So, where I can't post anything in this fucking chat, so I'm just gonna
Sorry. Like I said, I'm desperately trying to fix my camera issue right now.
I'll send this to you. Yale's base minimum is 22 million. That's back in 2018. The original number was 11.3. Yale went in and looked at it and showed that the methods that they were using were not.
Oh gosh, gang.
So by some analysis, okay,
What?
my assessment was correct, okay, but I can accept the new Yale one through reanalysis. But so far, your 30 million from 1990 is incorrect. Is that a fair assessment?
The issue being is that
give me that number. Where are you getting that? Where are you pulling that 30 million in 1990 from? Give me that number.
So the reason is because back in the 1990s and before that, Reagan had given amnesty to a lot of people.
So can you give me any reference at all to the 30 million in 1990?
Hold on. See what? I don't know why you're demanding this when I've already shown there's a much more than what you were thinking. I don't know why you're attacking this. You didn't ask for.
No. What you just said.
Stop. You didn't require any fucking documentation for anything you were talking about during this debate. Now that somebody's pushing back on you, you're demanding fucking sources.
Yeah, can I just have a source? Because I'm curious. Can you just give us a source?
I'm sending stuff.
What's the actual claim?
That there was 30 million illegal immigrants back in 1990s.
Wait, your claim was that there's 30 million illegal immigrants in the 1990s, not today?
Yes. Not today. It's going to be much higher today.
Wait. In the Yale study, you just said it's 22 million, and that's a reanalysis of the original 15 million. So
yes, of Yale's interpretation of the
popular interest group of Yale, totally.
Yeah. So it says Yale states that anywhere between 16 and 30 million, and it gave a 22 million as a middle ground. If you actually read the thing I was talking about.
I mean, I just as to what he's saying, I've seen numbers, and usually the numbers are like anywhere from 11 to 33 on the high end currently. That's kind of what I've seen. But like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know y'all want this exact sources. I mean, but I can attest to have seen some 33 numbers. I think that's a little bit outrageous. But I've also seen.
No, he said 33 in the 90s.
Yeah,
okay?
I know that's what he's saying. 30 in the 90s, yeah.
Yeah, so do you think it's increasing since then or decreasing? What is your specific claim?
So there's going to be at this point in the latest 5 years, it has exponentially grown in terms of encounters at the border.
Well, encounters at the border doesn't mean immigrants living here.
Hold on. There's a difference between illegal immigrants and encounters at the border, right? Do we agree on that?
That I agree with. Yeah.
Okay, so at the bare minimal is the encounters, at the and it can go up from there on the actual amount of people that come over per year. Correct?
Yeah, but I believe you said, if I remember correctly, you said undocumented immigrants, as in there's
Yes.
people living. Yeah. So
And anybody who legally crosses, colloquially are determined to be undocumented immigrants.
yeah, and that's why I alluded to the fact that it's difficult to get accurate numbers on obviously undocumented immigrants. That's why I gave a range. Okay.
Well,
and
those numbers from deportation, because if they encounter them at the border, they're deporting them.
No.
Yeah, and so
They don't encounter that. No, the moment they encounter at the border, they get taken into custody, processed, given a date to show up to a court, and then released into the interior. That is how it's been working.
Yeah, so you cited a number of 30 million in 1990.
And we're gonna get hung. Yeah, we're gonna keep getting hung up on this.
Yeah, we are, because I'm pretty confident that you
I
just
understand
don't give
that you're very
information.
confident. Holy shit.
So are you standing by that claim?
I am gonna stand by it.
Okay, so can you give anything to back up that claim?
I'm not gonna do that.
Okay.
Fuck off.
Okay.
And let me ask my question.
Okay, can I just for
First of all, wait, that's pretty Chad. It's a pretty Chad response, if we're going to be honest.
No, because I don't like this fucking Destiny shit where he asked for a source.
Yeah.
Fucking topic.
Hold on. I know that you guys can't see me and see my face, and so like I keep forgetting you guys can't see me when I'm raising my hand and telling you to calm the fuck down. Also, first of all, thank you for the gifts of Admiral Gibbs. But I do want to give some space for response, right? So let's reset. Okay. Artemis, state clearly and concisely your issue here. And then I'm going to let LSP and Corey Campbell clearly and concisely have their response. And I want both sides to be uninterrupted as they do so.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So the issue is, for the Canadian, if you have 10% of your fucking size of your population coming over your border every year, right? At what point does your demographics no longer reflect your country?
Yeah. So that would be about 3 to 4 million per year, using Canadian numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever, it would take about approximately 10, 15
About
years.
Seven due to the birth rates and stuff like that. So it's kind of a tricky math question, but it's about 7 to 8. Just because of how births and stuff like that work for people.
Yeah, sure. I will take your number. Absolutely.
Yep.
I have no
So
issue.
the question is, you guys never address you're always addressing it from the standpoint of the personal, but not the societal good and what the society needs. So I know that LSP stated that it's a good thing because we're giving them jobs for stuff that we don't want to do or whatever. LSP. Or whatever his name is.
Yeah. I'm just taking what you're going. You can go.
Yep. So I don't know why that is a useful statement at all when we're talking about societal demographics that's going to shift the voting of the country. Can anybody tell me why capitalism is an argument in this scenario?
I don't understand what you're asking.
Okay,
I'm confused as to the question.
Okay, so the question is, when we're talking about incorporating so many people that you're shifting the voting patterns of your country, why would capitalism be an argument in favor of it?
Can I ask why shifting of voting positions is a issue at all? Right? Like, obviously, if you let a lot of people in, they legally vote in the country. If they're allowed to legally vote, then they're going to shift the positions. Like, it could be more Republican, less Republican. I don't know.
How does a census count people? Does it count citizens that can legally vote, or does it count all people?
This is actually a strong argument.
So when you're talking about when it counts all people, how are congressional seats in the Congress divvied up?
Yep, it's based on population, not voting size. So you can literally, by allowing more immigrants, illegal immigrants into your state, you've got a greater voting share in both Congress and for electors too, right?
Yes. So when go ahead.
So is that an argument for restricting immigration, or is that an argument for changing how voting is divvied up or districts are divvied up? I mean, I could see it being right.
May I jump in on this? I want to say I don't know about the catalyst. I think there's a myriad of reasons why immigration is good, right? and specifically why I want legal immigration over illegal immigration. But I mean that to your point though, I would almost say if I'm being self-interested, as I usually try to openly be on here, try to openly admit my self-interest and my bias, this would be an argument for it's pretty much everything I said with deterrence, right? In this case, I'd be like, hey, let's just open up the borders and let everybody come in here illegally. And then Texas is going to have the biggest, population. None of these people can vote. So, we're going to, what did we, we're having basically, same kind of problem we had when the American Civil War, not Civil War, American Revolution happened, having taxation without representation for all these people. But hey, that's good for me because Texas is getting more congressional seats. And now we can fight the liberal Democrats. So that would be the argument. That would be the conservative argument for what you're advocating for. And so I don't know that I really buy that because even as someone who would benefit from kind of what you're saying, I'm still pretty staunchly into hey, we need a strong border with.
I give up on my camera tonight, gang.
Immigration reform category
to secure power in the Congress. I don't know why anybody would be in favor of that because you're just importing in slave populations to boost your numbers. It is not in favor of massive.
I don't know about slave populations.
I mean, if people are trying to hire fucking servants and like toilet washers, I mean that's going to be a caste system at best.
I'm gonna back up this guy just real quick. So it doesn't actually help you, Gibbs, because the states, yes, Texas gets lots of illegal immigrants, but California gets substantially more, right? Yes, right. Florida gets a lot, but it's relatively close to what New York gets. Florida apparently gets
actually blue states in the top 5.
Yeah, absolutely, yes, right. Especially California, right? And so you have blue states that are getting massive advantages in voting share now because the census doesn't differentiate. So you got California getting all these presidential electors or or House representatives, et cetera, because of census data in which they have all these illegal immigrants. That's a fair point. I also think it's a fair point to be concerned about the political changes that might occur if you just let in a bunch of people, right? Would anybody here be concerned if, let's just say, China implemented a policy where they were going to start sending party members to the U.S. to influence elections? I'd be fucking terrified.
Yeah, I would, in my province, I would not accept an influx of 10 million evangelical Christians. I wouldn't want that demographic shift.
Well, I don't care about 10 million.
Would you build a wall to stop them from getting in, Corey?
I would have to. I don't know the effectiveness of walls,
well,
but I would not.
What if a lot of people died on that wall? I mean, we couldn't have the wall then.
I would not put drones. I would not put armed guards that would shoot on sight. No.
What if you could make an army of Sheriff Joe Arpaio's and each?
I would maybe a moat, maybe a moat with some baby alligators.
I have a question.
Oh, alligators. Okay.
I said baby I don't know about alligators, gang. I give up on my camera tonight. I keep every time I try to type. Turn it on, all of you go it freezes up, and I don't know what's going on.
Have you tried leaving this room and rejoining? That's fixed my thing before when that's happened.
Look, somebody fixed their camera.
We could all just freeze in time in solidarity with you, Wick.
Yeah, okay. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna try the disconnect and reconnect thing. Give me 1 second. Hold on, gang.
Fuck that guy. Oh, sorry, he's back. Hold on.
Okay, gang, hold on. We're gonna try totally shutting down Discord. We're gonna try totally bringing it back up, and we're gonna try jumping in and hoping. This is a problem. I don't know what's wrong.
He uses when he tries to determine what is a reasonable amount of force.
No, it doesn't work.
I think I've heard of it.
Shooting somebody is going to stop them from coming to the country. If you're trying to regain some semblance of control over that border, when is it too much? When is it too much force? If nothing is going to deter these people.
So it's a gray line, at least for me. Where that's why I think something proactive of I think drones or armed drones that will shoot on sight. I think that's a step too far. That's why I was a little bit sympathetic to the analogy that Lactoid brought up of if he happens to build a fence in his backyard and there's some sort of like trap. I don't know. I think the claymore is a little bit too much. But like, yeah, if there's something that happens to result in death as they're scaling over and falling, like I'm a little more sympathetic to that. But like, yeah, something that's intentional, that's actively killing people, I am not sympathetic to that.
So we do know that the buoy system isn't really killing people. It's the people who can't swim dying and getting trapped onto the buoy system, right? Like they're not getting impaled on the buoy. Their body's getting caught up on the buoy's thing and drowning. Maybe they haven't really shown anything about anybody actually like getting caught on the buoy.
Yeah, to be clear, they're putting the buoys in areas where people are crossing.
Yeah, on the
just force them into the areas they don't want to cross. You know, like the dangerous areas where they might drown.
But to be clear, there are almost an infinite amount of mileage to cross the border in the U.S. I've done it before. I've crossed into Mexico illegally by just walking under a fence. It's not hard. You don't have to go over the Rio Grande. You can just go around it. Does anybody agree?
I think you're kind of demonstrating that barriers don't work. Like you just told us it doesn't work.
So that was the barrier in question is 2 barbed wire strings on a non-kept up wooden pole that's like 2 feet high to keep out cows.
So do you would favor like a stronger barrier all the entire border, or is there anywhere you would
actually a lot of the border is not passable on just feet. Like the mountainous areas don't need them. Anywhere outside of a city for about 30 or 40 miles is usually the most you'll need. That's usually it'll take a person 2 or 3 days to actually walk that. Enough time for somebody to see it.
Okay, so not the entire border. You don't need.
It's not necessary for the entirety of the border. It's dumb because you can't. Would
you say anywhere where people could cross though? Like anywhere anybody could cross safely?
Highest traffic areas need it.
But you understand, like you put a barrier there, they're just going to move somewhere else, right?
So
you just say like keep going.
No, so possibly. So here's the issue, right? Poland and Finland have this issue, and they solved it by using barrier fencing. Barrier fencing works. Poland has secured its border and hasn't had terrorist attacks in a long time. It keeps out all of the illegal immigration from Belarus at gunpoint. It's very effective. They use water cannons and stuff like that for the easier trafficked areas. It's actually a very effective system, and they have issues because the immigrants know they can't cross. That's why they don't try.
Speaking of issues, I wanted to give Allison a chance. Allison, hello. Sorry you can't see my face, but yeah, I'm very pleased to see you. What do you have?
Oh, are you an artist? Did you paint those?
Okay, I did.
I'm an artist too. We got
don't let him distract you.
Sorry. We're both artists.
What are your thoughts on immigration?
Okay, so I have like kind of mixed feelings because on one hand, like I look at pictures of the caravan and they're taking their little children and it's like so desperate and like you feel so awful and you're like, oh, let them all in. Like it feels so sad and like horrible. At the same time, it seems like every single community that gets hit with this is like, bro, it is a serious burden and like our social infrastructure actually cannot handle it. And like border cities have been accused of this for a while, but like I think somebody pointed out earlier, like the cities haven't actually received that many migrants, like as a share of what's come in, like they've received enough to cause issues, but like as far as like the share coming in, they haven't even received that many. And it does seem to already like be causing serious issues because like these are high needs people, right? Like they're destitute, they're fleeing like horrific, desperate situations. It's very sympathetic, but it does seem like Democrat cities that have made themselves sanctuary cities and that have like gone on and on and on about how like basically immigration law is immoral because like it seems like now like the tide is turning because they're having to deal with it in like even the smallest, tiniest way. And I'm just like, I don't know. But I mean, I feel so bad for people. And I'm like kind of a softie. I don't want to see people get deported. Like I like feel bad for them. So I'm not even like super right wing on this issue, but I also am just like the Democrats are seemingly like really resisting any actual enforcement of the border. And I see deadly force used at the border against like random people, like who you have no reason to think that they're engaging in criminal activity other than crossing, right? Like I don't want to see like literal random people just getting shot because they're trying to come in illegally. Like, I don't know. So it's like, I have all kinds of feelings, but I do think this is like a big issue right now. And it's going to they're going to hit it like heavier and heavier until the election. And I'm just.
Can I?
Go ahead. respond.
So there's like two things that Allison hit on that are kind of like themes I'm seeing repeated. So one, Allison, you brought up that like democratic cities are not responding well to thousands upon immigrants by the busload getting dropped off. My doorbell just rang. I will be right back.
Wonderful, gang. So we have
It's an invasion. He's being invaded
It's an invasion.
right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna say maybe it's illegal immigrants who are trying to like use his home.
Those hogs that 𝕵𝖎𝖎𝖙 is talking about.
Bro, the rattlesnakes, bro. You gotta watch out.
It's a rattlesnake.
God, this is
he needs a gun to shoot them.
Oh,
Okay.
by the way,
Please.
I did look at the shithole California statement. California is running a deficit of about $68 billion at the moment. The best estimate that Newsom gave was $39 billion deficit this year. California is falling apart. It has one of the worst roads in the union. The crime rate is spiking. Not only for the illegal immigration, by the way, but the homeless population adds a seat in Congress, which is why they don't solve the homeless issue.
Interesting. Gang, I hate to cut this short, but the fact that my camera isn't working and we're having all these other issues, I think we're going to just kind of call it for tonight. I'm going to try desperately to fix my stuff because tomorrow we have call-ins with Brittany Simon. So if you want to talk to me and Brittany Simon about anything, tomorrow's your chance. Gang, thank you to my callers. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Artemis. Thank you to my guests. Thank you, Admiral Gibbs. Thank you, Corey Campbell, LSP. And thank you, 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙. We're going to be raiding into Prime Kai. Make sure you spam those emotes. You let them know that this is a hate raid. And I'll see you guys. Hopefully I'll see you guys. Oh my God.
I never got to respond.
Hopefully we'll see you as well.
Yeah. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern. Check us out. And then later on in the week, we have Artemis actually is coming on this one as well. We're going to be talking about Trump's fascism, quote unquote. And we're going to have counterpoints on for that. We're going to have Artemis. We're going to have 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙 and maybe a special guest. We'll find out. But for now, we're going to raid out.
Who are we rating?
Wait, bye. Prime Kai. So,
if anybody wants to milk my attendance for money, I don't mind sticking around or going to their stream.
Oh yeah. If you guys want to hang out in here, I don't know why it's not working, but for now,
God hates
see you guys later. Bye.